These 7 vegetables cost less than a coffee. They're in every market, every grocery store. Some are probably rotting in your fridge right now. And most people have no idea what they actually do to the human body. Warriors ate these before battle. Kings demanded them in crisis. Ancient civilizations built entire ceremonies around them. Number 2 contains a compound pharmaceutical companies spend billions trying to manufacture synthetically. It's been growing inside a common garden bean since the beginning of recorded history. And number 7 was eaten at the most famous meal in all of ancient literature. Science just confirmed. The reason it was chosen wasn't symbolic. It was deeply, specifically biological. By the end of this, you will never look at these vegetables the same way again. Let's get into it. Number 1. Lentils. Genesis 25. Esau comes in from the field completely broken, physically depleted. He sees his brother Jacob over a pot of red lentil stew, and trades his entire birthright for a single bowl. Everyone focuses on Esau's decision. Nobody asks the real question. Why lentils? Not bread, not meat, not wine. Lentils. Think about that for a second. A man who has been in the fields, hunting, laboring, burning through every energy reserve in his body, walks past everything else available and zeroes in on a pot of lentil stew. His body made that decision before his mind did. Because the human body under extreme depletion develops a biological intelligence. It points you toward exactly what it needs. And what Esau's body was screaming for was lentils. Here's why. The outer coat of a lentil contains dense concentrations of proanthocyanidins, phenolic acids, and flavonols. These compounds directly inhibit alpha amylase and alpha glucosidase, the enzymes responsible for carbohydrate breakdown. That slows glucose absorption, prevents blood sugar spikes, creates a sustained satiety signal that processed food cannot replicate at the cellular level. But it doesn't stop there. Clinical research confirms lentil polyphenols significantly reduce LDL cholesterol, lower post-meal blood sugar response, and deliver antioxidant protection straight to the cardiovascular system. Their potassium to sodium ratio sits at 30:1, one of the most powerful natural tools for blood pressure regulation that exists anywhere in the food supply. And lentil sprout extracts have been shown to elevate superoxide dismutase and catalase, 2 of the body's own internal antioxidant enzymes. The lentil doesn't just bring its own antioxidants, it activates the ones you already have. In times of siege and starvation, lentils were ground with barley and spelt into a dense, sustaining bread. That exact formulation is recorded in Ezekiel 4:9, described as food capable of sustaining entire populations under extreme duress. Modern nutritionists have since studied that precise grain combination and confirmed what the ancient world already understood. The macronutrient and micronutrient profile is nearly perfect for long-term human survival under stress. The traditional preparation was slow-cooked with garlic and olive oil. That combination wasn't chosen for taste alone. Garlic and olive oil increased the bioavailability of the polyphenols. The ancient cook was optimizing absorption without ever having heard the word bioavailability. Esau wasn't being foolish. His body knew exactly what it needed. That bowl of red stew was more medically sophisticated than it looked. Number 2. Fava beans 2, Samuel 17. King David is fleeing into the wilderness, surrounded by enemies, running for his life. His military position has collapsed. His psychological state is at rock bottom. His loyal men bring him supplies. The list is recorded with exact detail. Bread, grain, honey, curds, sheep, and fava beans. This wasn't random. These were experienced men, making high-stakes decisions about what a broken leader needs to function again. Every single item on that list was chosen to restore a man in total physical and psychological collapse, as fast as possible. Modern neuroscience has finally explained why fava beans made that list. Fava beans are one of the only foods on Earth that naturally synthesize L-dopa, levodopa, the direct biochemical precursor to dopamine, the neurotransmitter that governs motor control, mood, motivation, drive, and cognitive focus. When dopamine crashes, which it does under extreme stress, sleep deprivation, and physical collapse, your ability to think clearly, make decisions, and function under pressure collapses with it. A fleeing king with depleted dopamine is not a king who can mount a comeback. When you eat fava beans, L-dopa is absorbed through the gut wall, crosses the blood-brain barrier, and converts directly into active dopamine, the molecule a desperate, depleted king urgently needed restored. Clinical studies confirm it. Cooked fava beans produce measurable, significant increases in plasma L-dopa and dopamine levels. Researchers have documented genuine motor performance improvements in Parkinson's disease patients. From eating a bean, not a pharmaceutical, not a synthetic compound engineered in a lab. A bean that David's men carried into the wilderness 3,000 years ago. Now here's the part that changes everything. The fava pod and young leaves also contain carbidopa, a compound that prevents L-dopa from breaking down in the bloodstream before it ever reaches the brain. That means more L-dopa arrives intact. More dopamine gets produced. The effect is amplified. Pharmaceutical companies have spent decades engineering this exact pairing, L-dopa plus carbidopa, as the gold standard treatment for Parkinson's disease. It is sold as a patented prescription medication in countries worldwide. The fava bean assembles that same pairing naturally, in every pod, for free. A fleeing king was fed this at his lowest point. That detail was recorded and preserved across 3,000 years. Now we know exactly why it was the right call. Number 3. Garlic numbers 11:5. The Israelites, freshly freed from slavery, are moving through the wilderness, and they start listing what they miss from Egypt. Not gold, not ease, not comfort. The fish, the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. These were not people mourning luxury. These were former slaves who had spent generations doing brutal physical labor under impossible conditions. Garlic wasn't a treat. It was so fundamental to their daily survival that losing it felt like genuine biological deprivation. The kind of craving that comes from the body, not the mind. Ancient Egypt understood exactly what garlic was doing. State records document garlic rations issued directly to the workers building the pyramids, not as a gesture of generosity, as a deliberate performance and health maintenance strategy. Herodotus recorded this. The inscriptions confirm it. The physical force that raised those monuments was sustained, in significant part, by this plant. Here's the biochemistry. The moment you crush a garlic clove, an enzymatic reaction fires immediately. Allosanes, stored in separate cellular compartments within the clove, contacts allicin and converts it instantly into allicin, a hydrophobic organosulfur compound that penetrates cell membranes and enters your bloodstream within minutes. Once circulating, allicin stimulates the endothelial lining of your blood vessels to produce nitric oxide, triggering vasodilation and improving blood flow throughout the entire cardiovascular system. Simultaneously, allicin inhibits HMG-CoA reductase, the exact same enzymatic target that statin drugs are designed to block, lowering LDL cholesterol and triglycerides, without a prescription, without the documented side effects. At the immune level, allicin suppresses pro-inflammatory cytokines, IL-1 beta, IL-6, and TNF-alpha, by blocking NF-κB translocation. This is not symptom management. This is molecular source control. The inflammatory cascade is stopped before it builds. Multiple meta-analyses of randomized controlled trials confirm garlic supplementation significantly lowers systolic blood pressure, improves lipid profiles, and reduces cardiovascular disease risk markers. The preparation detail cannot be overstated. Crush it raw. Let it sit for 10 minutes after crushing. That's how long allicin takes to fully form. Then use it. High heat degrades allicin within minutes. The pre-minced jar in your fridge, minimal active compound. The powder in your spice cabinet, even less. The ancient method, crush, rest, use, was not primitive. It was precise. Number 4, onions. Same list. Numbers 11:5. Same collective longing. The same former slaves who built the ancient world were craving these alongside garlic and leeks. That's not a coincidence. In ancient Egypt, onions were not background food. Archaeologists have recovered them from inside sealed tombs. They appear painted on pyramid walls. They're documented in medical papyri as treatments for respiratory infections, wound care, and gastrointestinal disease, combined with raw honey as expectorant syrups, fermented with milk for gut infections. The ancient world never separated culinary from therapeutic, because they understood they were the same thing. The primary active compound, quercetin, a flavonol concentrated in the outer pigmented layers of the bulb, the layers most people peel away without a second thought. Quercetin operates through two simultaneous mechanisms. First, it directly scavenges reactive oxygen species, neutralizing oxidative damage accumulating in your tissues. Second, it inhibits both COX and LOX enzymatic pathways simultaneously, blocking the production of inflammatory leukotrienes and prostaglandins at their source, not managing symptoms downstream, eliminating the mechanism that creates them upstream. A 12-week randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical trial, the gold standard of medical evidence, showed that daily quercetin-rich onion powder significantly reduced visceral fat accumulation and improved hepatic lipid metabolism. Visceral fat, not subcutaneous fat, the fat under your skin. Visceral fat, the fat packed around your liver, kidneys, and intestines. The fat most directly linked to insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and accelerated mortality. The fat that conventional dieting struggles most to reach. Onions are also a powerful prebiotic. Their fructooligosaccharides and inulin bypass upper gut digestion entirely and arrive in your colon intact, where they are fermented by specific microbiota, selectively feeding and multiplying bifidobacterium and faecalibacterium. The byproducts of that fermentation are short-chain fatty acids and tryptophan-derived metabolites that seal the intestinal barrier, suppress gut-derived systemic inflammation, and regulate metabolic signaling body-wide. Your gut is not a passive digestive tube. It is an active immune and endocrine organ, and onions are directly optimizing its function. Preparation: raw, outer layers intact. The ancient pyramid managers were not thinking about flavor when they handed workers onions at the start of a shift. They were thinking about how to keep those workers functional under conditions that would break most modern people in days. Number 5. Leeks. Numbers 11-5. Same list, same craving. But leeks carry something the others don't. In Sephardic and Mizrahi Jewish tradition, leeks are placed deliberately on the Rosh Hashanah table, the New Year. A specific blessing is recited over them. This vegetable was chosen to represent one precise idea: the cutting away of everything that harms, the removal of what holds the body back from moving forward. That framing turns out to be remarkably accurate biology. The key compound, camphorol, a dietary flavonol with one specific and extraordinary target. It activates SIRT1, SIRT2-in-1, a NAD+ dependent deacetylase enzyme now recognized by researchers as one of the body's master regulators of cellular aging, metabolic efficiency, and inflammation control. SIRT1 is the enzyme longevity scientists are most focused on right now. Pharmaceutical companies are actively investing hundreds of millions to develop drugs that activate it. Caloric restriction activates it. Intense exercise activates it. Dietary camphorol, found in leeks, activates it too. When SIRT1 is activated, it deacetylates key transcription factors including NF-kelka-B and P53. That suppresses the inflammatory gene expression driving chronic disease progression. It stimulates mitochondrial biogenesis, the production of new mitochondria, the energy engines of every cell in your body. It shields organ tissue from the oxidative damage that accumulates silently over decades. Clinical research shows camphorol protects the liver from drug-induced hepatotoxicity, preserves renal tissue integrity, and specifically prevents the vascular calcification, the hardening and stiffening of arterial walls. That is a primary driver of cardiovascular death in aging populations. Then there's the inulin, working through a completely separate but complementary pathway, the gut-brain axis. Leek inulin feeds specific beneficial intestinal microbes and drives production of neuroactive metabolites, compounds that cross from the gut into the central nervous system, reduce neuroinflammation, and measurably improve cognitive flexibility and memory retention. A 2024 study showed inulin supplementation reversed cognitive impairments in subjects on high-fat diets, not by targeting the brain directly, but by fundamentally reshaping the microbial composition of the gut. The gut shaped the brain. The leek shaped the gut. An ancient ceremony chose this plant to represent cutting away everything that holds you back. Modern science is now explaining, molecule by molecule, exactly why that instinct was correct. Number 6. Cucumbers. Numbers 11:5. The cucumbers of Egypt. Then Isaiah adds something most people read straight past. Chapter 1, verse 8. A lone shelter standing in the middle of a cucumber field. A watchtower. Guards posted in the heat, specifically to protect the crop. You don't assign guards to food you consider ordinary. In ancient Egypt and across the Levant, cucumbers were not salad. They were classified as therapeutic food, consumed deliberately during peak heat, extended physical labor, and acute physiological stress. The ancient texts are specific about context. It wasn't casual eating. It was intentional medicine. Modern food science is now explaining the mechanism behind that instinct. Cucumbers are approximately 96% structured water. That word, structured, is doing real scientific work. This is not passive hydration. This is water delivered within a cellular matrix, bound with potassium, magnesium, and manganese, entering directly into the intracellular compartment. It maintains fluid balance, joint lubrication, electrolyte equilibrium, and muscular contractility in ways that drinking plain water simply does not replicate. Under extreme heat and sustained physical labor, exactly the conditions described across every ancient text that mentions cucumbers, that distinction becomes physiologically critical. Cellular dehydration doesn't just make you thirsty. It degrades cognitive function, reduces muscular output, accelerates oxidative damage, and strains the kidneys in measurable ways. Now here's the compound most people have never heard of: cucurbitacins, B, I, and E. Highly oxygenated triterpenoids that the cucumber synthesizes as a biological defense under environmental stress. In the human body, these compounds demonstrate measurable cytotoxicity against multiple cancer cell lines, including HeLa and HepG2, by inhibiting STAT3 signaling and triggering programmed cell death in malignant cells. This is active cancer biology, being studied in clinical laboratories right now. The cucumber peel, the part most people remove, contains concentrated ascorbic acid and silica that directly drive collagen synthesis, support renal detoxification, and counter oxidative cellular damage. Preparation: raw. Peel fully intact, consumed at peak heat and exertion, precisely when cellular dehydration is most acute and the kidneys need the most targeted support. Guards slept in open fields to protect this crop. The ancient world assessed its value correctly. We simply forgot to take it as seriously as they did. Number 7. Chicory and bitter herbs. This is the one I told you about at the very beginning. Exodus 12. One of the most precisely documented sacred events in the ancient record. Instructions are given for a meal that would be recreated, exactly, by millions of people across thousands of years of history. Every detail is recorded with unusual specificity. The animal, the bread, the method of preparation, the hour of eating. And alongside all of it, with equal weight and equal specificity, bitter herbs, maror, not suggested, not recommended, commanded. For centuries, most people understood that command through a single lens, the bitterness as symbol. Suffering, slavery, the texture of hardship. That meaning is real, and it matters. But the Mishnah, the oral legal code compiled around 200 CE, goes further. It names specific plants eligible to fulfill this commandment, and chicory, Cichorium intybus, is listed among the primary ones. A sacred obligation, a specific plant, named, preserved in the written record for 2,000 years. Modern hepatology is now reading that instruction with entirely different eyes. Clinical research on Cichorium intybus extract demonstrates a powerful, dose-dependent anti-fibrotic effect on the liver. Chicory significantly reduces expression of TGF-beta1 and alpha-smooth muscle actin, the primary molecular drivers of hepatic stellate cell activation and extracellular matrix deposition. In direct terms, chicory arrests the progression of liver fibrosis at the cellular level. Liver fibrosis, the scarring of liver tissue that precedes cirrhosis and eventual organ failure, currently has no approved pharmaceutical treatment that fully reverses its progression. The research pipelines are active and heavily funded, and chicory is producing results in controlled studies that approved synthetic drugs have not yet matched. The mechanism starts before you've swallowed a single bite. The moment bitterness hits your tongue, specialized taste receptor cells fire signals along the vagal nerve, the primary neural highway between gut and brain. That signal immediately spikes secretion of saliva, gastric acid, bile, and pancreatic enzymes. Your entire digestive apparatus is primed and activated before the food has even reached your stomach. Ancient physicians across multiple traditions understood this. They called it bitter tonic medicine. Modern gastroenterology calls it cephalic phase digestive response. Same phenomenon, different vocabulary. Then the chicory root's inulin fructans, which can constitute up to 60% of its dry weight, arrive in the colon and selectively feed bifidobacterium. That process drives measurable reductions in systemic lipids, blood glucose, and circulating inflammatory biomarkers throughout the body. Bitter. Root level. Gut activating. That is what was commanded. Not sweet. Not neutral. Specifically bitter. The bitterness was the mechanism. Traditional preparation. Raw as a bitter green, steeped as a root tea, or slow cooked into stews. The root is significantly more potent than the leaf. A sacred meal commanded this plant by name. Thousands of years before the liver had a medical literature. Thousands of years before anyone understood what TGF-beta-1 was. Liver researchers are now reading that same instruction with completely different eyes. 7 vegetables. Thousands of years of recorded use. Present in markets, in kitchens, in fields. Nearly forgotten in a world that decided pharmaceuticals were more convenient than plants. What the ancient record shows us, consistently, across every text and every tradition we've covered, is this. They were not guessing. They were observing. And what they observed with enough precision to record it, name it, preserve it in legal codes, and build sacred ceremonies around, has been confirmed, mechanism by mechanism, by the same science that modern medicine bases its entire credibility on. Lentils stabilize blood sugar and protect the cardiovascular system through one of the densest polyphenol profiles in the plant kingdom. Fava beans deliver the direct biochemical precursor to dopamine, the molecule the brain needs to function under pressure and recover from collapse. Garlic dismantles the chronic vascular inflammation that silently erodes your arteries over decades. Onions target visceral fat, the fat around your organs that conventional dieting rarely reaches, and rebuild your gut from the inside out. Leeks activate SIRT1, the cellular aging regulator that longevity scientists currently consider one of the most significant targets in all of medicine. Cucumbers deliver structured intracellular hydration and active anti-cancer triterpenoids in the same bite. And chicory arrests the liver fibrosis progression that no currently approved pharmaceutical has fully matched. 7 plants. All of them accessible. All of them underpriced. All of them underestimated. The ancient record was right. It just didn't explain the mechanism, because the mechanism was never the point. The point was always simpler than that. Eat this. These are the things that sustain you. One final thing before you go, and this part matters more than most people realize. How you prepare these is how much of this you actually receive. The quercetin in onions is highest in the outer dry layers most people discard. Garlic's allicin only activates when crushed raw, not chopped, not powdered, not pre-minced, and it needs 10 minutes to fully form before any heat touches it. The cucumber peel carries the cucurbitacins and the silica. Removing it removes the most important part. Chicory root is substantially more potent than the leaf, and lentils slow-cooked with garlic and olive oil deliver dramatically better polyphenol bioavailability than lentils cooked plain. The ancient preparation methods were not cultural habits. They were protocols, refined over thousands of years of watching what worked, what sustained people, and what didn't. Drop a comment. Which one surprised you most? Team fava beans? Team chicory? Team garlic? I read every single one, and I want to know where you're starting. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit the button and ring the bell. Every week we go deeper into what ancient texts recorded, and what modern science is only now proving. Next week's video covers something already sitting in your kitchen right now, and by the time we're done, you will never reach for it the same way again. See you in the next one.